Hi, this is Paul, and this is going to be an in-depth guide on how to use my custom scripts for Studio One for driving the P1-Nano from iCON. Now, you're going to need the optional display unit here. The script is really designed around this display unit, so you really need it to use this. We'll start with the shift button here. As you can imagine, the shift mode means that some of the buttons do different things depending if the shift mode is engaged or not. You can engage the shift mode by either holding it down, as you can see under my hand, I'm touching it and it's going on, and then you release it and it goes off. Alternatively, you can tap it to latch it on or tap it to latch it off. These rotary encoders up here, I'm going to be referring to them as VPOTs because that's what the original Mackie device called them, virtual potentiometers. So if you hear me say VPOTs, this is what I'm talking about, these rotary encoders here. So normally these are assigned to different things. We'll get into that when we look at each of these individual scenes. But one thing that's always true is that if the shift mode is engaged, then whatever the VPOT is assigned to will be reset to its default value if you click the VPOT with the shift mode engaged. So here, for example, we've got the VPOT connected to the input gain of the channel. So if I want to reset that to 0, I can engage the shift mode and click, and it goes back to 0. Similar thing happens with the faders. If we bring the fader down, shift and tap it, you can reset it to 0. So over here on the blue layer, the top 2 rows here are the scene control, and the scene just determines what it is you're controlling with the controller. We're having track mode at the moment, so we're dealing with track stuff. For example, the input gain here, and pressing it will reverse the polarity. We're going to go into depth on each of these scenes later on, but they can just be changed by pressing them. There's one button here, which is the focus mode. Each of these scenes has a normal mode and a focus mode, and you can toggle the focus on and off. So if I change it to track, you can see it's on the track mode. The stars mean it's not focused. And then we can go pan and then send. So here's the send mode. Now, some of them have a little counter here, which is because there's more than one send on a track. So it'll tell you which particular send you're looking at because there's different slots. Now, when you're in focus mode, if we go to track view and press focus, you can see that the square brackets come up, which shows you that you're in focus mode, and then it tells you what track you're actually focused on. So in unfocused mode, the general rule is that every single VPOT here is controlling a different track, and it's quite clear from the labels here which one you're controlling. But when you're in focus mode, you're only controlling the selected track. So if we go over to the snare track by banking over, then we focus that, we can see that the track is focused on the snare. And then all of these are now connected to things, but they're only to do with the focus track, in this case, the snare track. So you can see here that you can control the phase from here, the panning, the input gain, VCA routings, etc. Now, a bit more explanation on the display. The third line here is always the track number and the selector indicator, which is the square brackets. So you can see as I step through the channels here, it shows you which one you're selected on. Now, as well as the track numbers on line 3, you can also see automation status. For example, if we select the kick here and then we engage the read mode, we can see that the little R comes up there that shows you that that's in read mode. It'll also show you the other modes, T for touch, W for write, etc. If it's blank, there's no automation. The bottom line will either display what the fader is connected to, or it will display the track name. So the first 2 lines are usually what the VPOTs are connected to and the value of that. Now the scene information overwrites the track number on channel 8, and sometimes, depending on the scene, also overwrites channel 7. If you want to turn that off, you can by taking the info button off, and then you get the normal track number. If you just want to see it momentarily, you can just hold it and then take it off, or you can just latch it on and off whenever you need to see the information underneath. So you can move to different channels by using the normal banking and step controls, so you can step left and right. Now if you're on the 8th track, base DI here, and then we step right again, it switches the bank to the next bank. So now we're on 9 and we're on the 2nd bank here, and we can step forward and we can go back to the 1st bank. You can also jump banks by pressing the bank selectors here forward and backwards, but the selected channel will keep its position. So this is the 4th channel in this bank. So if we bank to the next bank, the 4th channel in this bank becomes the new selected track. Now you can also select a track directly. We have a selection mode down here, so you can directly select any of these channels that you can see. If you engage the select mode, and you can see now the angle brackets come up to show you that you're in selection mode. And so if I want to select this channel here, number 10, this bass, I can just click it, and then I'm now on that selected track. Now, as you're selecting tracks on the Nano, the Studio One console is going to scroll so that the channel that you've selected is visible on the Studio One interface. So as we move across the session here, you can see that it follows our selection. And if we bank to the right, you can see that the console moves now to keep the selected track in view. And it also works the other way around. So we're on the right hand side of the session now. So if we go all the way back to this snare drum here, when I select this snare track, you'll see that the Nano will automatically bank so that the selected track appears on the surface. And there's the snare. So the loop mode can be turned on and off as usual using the loop button here. But you can also set the start and end of the loop. So if you move the cursor to where you want to start, if you engage shift mode, you can now use the forward and rewind buttons to set the start of the loop with this one. And then if we go to say bar 21 here, we can set the end of the loop there, and then take shift mode off to revert back to the normal fast forward and rewind. Now next we're going to have a look at the marker mode. So here's the markers button. Once the marker mode is on, the jog wheel can be used as normally to move the cursor. To place a marker, you press the record button. You can also click the jog wheel. To move back and forward between the markers, you can use these 2 arrows here, the rewind and the fast forward button. And then to come out of marker mode, just press it again so it unlights, and now you're back to normal with the transport controlling rewind and forward. So the master mode also works. So if you click this master button down here, this then becomes the master fader. And if we start playing, we can see that the meter works here, and that is showing you the output of the master bus. Now these blue lights here will turn red if the master bus clips. So if we push the master bus up until it clips, and we can see it's gone red. And then if we bring it down again, it'll clear it. Now the metering here shows you normally the peak level of the highest level between the left and the right channels for each track, and they're calibrated by default so that 0 dB is at the top of this yellow segment. So anything over that will light the red clip light. And you can see here that the top of the green is minus 12 dB. Now there is a user settings file which you can go in to change a few things about how the scripts work. If you would prefer, you can adjust it so that you can put it into what I call the green meter mode, where the 0 dB is then moved to the top of the green segments, and you've then got 8 dB of headroom in the yellow segments before the clip light comes on at plus 8 dB. Now you can also show gain reduction on the meters. So if we come back over to the left-hand side here on the drums, to get it into gain reduction mode, you press the flip button, and now all of the meters are now showing gain reduction. So in the kick here, I've got a gate, so that's showing when the gate's opening and closing. And on the bass DI, I've got a compressor, and that's doing a few dB of compression there, probably about 5 or 6 dB occasionally. And if we just go and have a look at how the gain reduction meters are calibrated, it's basically 1 dB per green pip up to 6 dB. And then it gets progressively less sensitive as you go up the meter. We're now going to look at track filters. You can filter out what's shown on the Nano by just engaging these. Now, if none of them are engaged, i.e. none of them are lit, then what tracks you're seeing is anything that is on and visible on the main console in Studio One. However, you can filter it on the Nano. So for example, if I just want to see my buses, I can just press the bus channel. There's all my buses, and similarly for VCAs. And the last filter we're going to speak about is this remote filter here. This is a special filter because it will display anything that's set up in Studio One's remote bank. And to get that, you need to go down here and click this Edit Remote Bank icon so that it goes yellow. And you're now looking at a special bank that you can configure to your own liking. So you can hide and show whatever tracks you want on here. So here I've just got some synths and some keyboards, but you can add in anything else you would like, take away stuff you don't want. And once you have configured it, you can turn off the edit mode and it'll go back to the showing the normal console. But when you come to the remote filter now, when it's engaged, the control surface is only going to show you the tracks that you had set up in that remote bank when you edited it. And the other one we'll look at is this spill button here, which is a spill filter, and this will allow you to spill any VCAs, buses, or effects. What that means is that you'll only see the bus itself and any channels that are feeding the bus, and that could be because they have a direct output, like this one here. These are all going to the drums bus. So if I spilt the drums bus, I would see all of these. Or it could be that they have a send to them. So for example, I've got this main room bus here, which I've got a couple of sends to. So if I spill the main room bus, then it's going to show me everything that has a send to it. And VCAs work in a similar way. They will just show you all the tracks that these VCAs are controlling. So we'll have a look at that on the icon surface. Let's go to this synths bus here. So I'm going to select it first. If you're going to spill the bus or the VCA, you have to have it selected. And once it's selected, you can then press the spill button. And now all you're looking at now is just the synths, because those are the ones that are being routed into this bus. So you can step through those. You can make adjustments individually to how they're fed. And then you can control the overall volume of the bus. And then to get out of that, you can just unlatch the spill button. So let's just see that with the VCA as well. Let's go over and let's have a look at keys VCA. So I'm going to select the keys VCA, and then I'm going to press spill again. And now I can see the VCA itself, and plus everything that the VCA is controlling. So I've got those synths again, plus there's a B12 and a piano. So now we're going to look at the track scene, and starting with the unfocused mode. Each channel strip here represents a different channel. The channel name is shown on the second row. The channel numbers and automation status is shown on the third row. The bottom row here shows the level of the fader. So here we can see that moving. And at the top is what the VPOTs are connected to, which is the input gain. So as I turn it, you can see the input gain changing on the DAW, and the press is connected to the polarity, so you can flip the polarity on and off. As you click it, it briefly shows you the polarity value, so that was now on, flipped, and then off unflipped. Now coming down to the buttons here, the mute button does what you would expect. It mutes the particular track, solos the particular track, and the record button arms for recording. Now if you press the shift button, if you have shift engaged, the record button now becomes the monitor button, so you can turn the track monitoring on and off separately from the recording. The bank buttons here will bank 8 channels at a time, and the step buttons will just select the next track along, left or to the right. So now we're going to look at the track in focused mode. Now everything here is connected to the same channel. You're only controlling one channel. You can see which channel you're connected to by looking at this display here. In this case, it's the kick channel. Now from here, I can move to a different channel here, so I can still bank left and right, but then you'll see that now I'm connected to the snare, and if I go right again, I'll be connected to the hi-hat channel. And so all of these parameters across here are now pertaining to the hi-hat channel. So what can you do across here? Well, you've got the input gain on that particular focus channel. You've got the phase. You can flip the phase on and off. You can change the pan. You can change the input. So, for example, input left, input right from my audio interface. You can change the output routing. Here I'm going to the drums bus, but I can go to my print bus, acoustic bus. You can select a VCA that's going to control this track. So you can twist it to change it, bass, guitar. I'll leave it on drums. Now, if you want to clear this, so if you don't want any VCA at all, then you can just press the shift mode, and then you can click, and then it'll clear the VCA for you. And if you want to put one on, you can just rotate and just select which one you want. So let's get this back to drums, how it was. Now, the last two here will bypass the sends and the inserts respectively. So I can bypass the sends by twisting it right. One means bypassed, and left to unbypass it, and then I can bypass all the inserts and unbypass. Now, the metering is a bit different when you're in focus mode. The metering is no longer connected to the individual channels. The meters are all connected to your focused channel. So let's go to this bass DI track here to have a look at that. So if I play, then you can see you've got 3 meters active here. So the first meter is the left channel, the second meter is the right channel, and the third meter is the gain reduction on this track. So whenever you're in focus mode, you can see stereo metering plus gain reduction for that particular channel. So we're now in pan mode, and this is the unfocused mode. So this works exactly the same as the track mode, except for the VPOTs are connected to the pan instead of the input gain. So you can see here that we can pan the kick, and to get it central again, you can shift click VPOT. The click of the VPOT does nothing in this mode, and the rest of the controls here are just exactly the same as the track unfocused mode. So we're now in the pan focus mode, and we have this guitar bus in focus here. And you've only got 2 controls on the pan mode. You can have the normal panning control, left and right, and you've also got the pan type, which you can change by clicking the VPOT. So it's currently in simple mode, which is just the left-right pan. You can press it and it comes into dual mode, and then you can independently select the panning for the left and right channels. Binaural as well, so you can control the width of it, and then it goes back to simple. And the rest of the controls and the metering are exactly the same as in the track focused mode. So we're now in the send scene, and we are unfocused at the moment. So each channel strip here is controlling a different track. The channel names are at the bottom, and above those are the channel numbers. And in the scene indicator here, we can see that we're in send scene, and it's unfocused. that's the stars. And we've got here 1 of 3. And what that means is that we're showing slot 1, and there is a total of 3 slots used in this project. So if we look here on the console in the DAW, we can see that we have 3 slots being used here, which is the maximum in this project. And we are currently on the Nano looking at slot 1. If we want to control the next slots down, we can just keep pressing send, and that will advance to number 2, and that's slot 2. So you can see that we've got delay on this one and a delay on that one. And then again, and the only one with something in slot 3 is this this ARP3 channel with the P-comp compressor. And then press it again and we go back to slot 1. Now, when you're connected to one of the sends, the fader will control the main send level. The mute button will mute that particular send. The solo button will put the send into pre-fader or post-fader mode. So if it's lit, it's pre-fader. If it's unlit, it's post-fader. Now, the VPOT here will control the panning of that. Now, normally the panning is locked to however the channel is being panned. So if I try and change this, it'll come up and tell me it's locked. If I want to unlock it, then I have to press this record button here. And once it's unlocked, I can independently pan that send differently than the pan on the channel. And if I want to go back to following the channel, I can just press the lock button again and it relocks it for me. Now you can also change the routing if you want to send out to a different bus. To activate the routing, you need to click the VPOT and then it puts it into route mode. And now you can rotate the VPOT to change where it's heading. So now we've got it going to the plate, now the delay and the P-comp, etc. And then when you've found the one you want, you just take it out of routing mode by clicking again. As normal, the banking and the stepping works. It just moves you to the different selected track. So if you want to hop over and adjust the main room, you can just press right, and then you're adjusting the main room send level here. If it's not connected, if I go to the next one, there's no send there. It just zeroes out. You can also press the select mode again and select it directly. So let's, if I want to adjust the main room on the back Vox, I can select it and click it, and now I'm connected to this one. So that's now adjusting the send level on the backing vocals. So we're now going to look at the send focus mode. So we'll go to this ARP3, we'll select. Now when you go to the focus mode, what it'll show you is all of the sends on that particular channel. So here's focus mode. Now the colors just change all to the color of the track that you're focused on in this mode, because you can't select and bank to other tracks, because now the track selection is deciding which particular send on this channel that you're going to control. So now if I step through, I can control the send on the main room here, and next one I can control the send on the delay and the P-comp, etc. And then that one is unassigned, so it's down. For these 3 buttons here, same as the unfocused mode. So if I want to pan the delay separately, I just need to select this delay slot here. Then I can try and change it. Of course, it's locked, so I can come down here and unlock it, and then I can pan this independently. The metering works as normal for the focused modes, the left channel, the right channel, and any gain reduction that you're doing. So now we're going to look at the Q mix. This is the unfocused scene. We can see we're in Q mix unfocused, and we've got a counter here, 1 of 2. Now, if we look on the DAW, we can see we've got 2 Q mixes, and that's why it says 1 of 2, because we've got 2 Q mixes set up. And we're looking currently at the first mix, which is a mix for the singer Mary. And then if we press Q again, we're now looking at Q mix number 2, which is a Q mix for the whole, or the rest of the band. So when you're connected to a Q mix, the fader is controlling how much of this particular channel is sent to that Q mix. Now, normally it's going to follow the channel's own volume level. However, if you can override it by changing it here. If you want to get it back to following the channel volume, then you can press the solo button, and that returns it to following whatever the channel volume is. Similarly with the pan, this works a bit like the sends. You can change the pan, but it's normally locked to the channel panning. If you want to unlock it, you can press the record button and it's now unlocked. You can pan that independently in the QMix, and then to relock it, you can just press the record button again. The mute mutes this particular track going out to that QMix, and the normal channel banking and moving applies. So now we're going to look at the Q focus mode. So if we put it into focus mode, we're now looking at all of the Q mixes for a particular track, in this case the kick track here, and you can see we're in Q focus mode there. And this works exactly the same as the unfocused mode. Everything does exactly the same. You've got the level here and the panning, the unlocking of the panning, etc. It's all the same as the other one, except here you're looking at all of the Q mixes for a particular track, and you can go through them like this and do individual levels. And so now we're going to look at the macro scene. Now in the unfocused macros scene, every strip is connected to a different channel, and the faders and the mutes and all that do exactly what you would expect them to do. However, the VPots are now connected to any macro controls that you have set up. So if we look at this ARP3 channel here, and I go onto the macros page, you can see that I've set up a couple here. So this one controls the drives on a couple of plugins. This one controls the mix on a plugin, and this one bypasses a couple of plugins. So once that's been set up, we can control that from the control surface. And like the sends and the cues, we've got a counter here. There's always 8 macros, so it's always going to be 8 rows. This is our first row here, so this is showing us the first macro control. And if we press it again, it's showing us the second one, and then we go back to 1. The top row here shows you what's connected to the rotary section of the macro, and that's obviously connected to the rotary encoder. And the second line shows you what's connected to the push button part of the macro, and that's activated by pressing the rotary encoder. If we have a look on the Studio One console, as I press this button, it's going to activate the bypass on this red light distortion. So that's what it's connected to. And the focus mode of the macros again works exactly how you would expect. If we pop it into focus mode, we can now see all 8 macros for the selected channel. In this case, we're still working with this ARP3 channel. I've got the 2 macros assigned here, and I can directly access either of these. And now we're looking at the plugin scene. Again, we'll start with the unfocused mode. Once again, the channel strip area does exactly what you would expect it to do. And now the rotary encoders and the display now shows all of the plugins that are inserted onto these respective tracks. And just like the sends, we have a counter here that tells you how many plugin slots have been used over the entire project or song. It tells you which particular slot we're looking at the moment. So currently we're looking at slot 1, and you can compare that with the Studio One console. You can see in slot 1 we've got the gate and the Pro EQ, and on the Nano we've got the gate and the EQ showing. The rotary encoders will bypass and unbypass the plugin. So if we want to bypass the gate, we can just turn it to the right, and the 1 means it's bypassed, and then turn it to the left to unbypass it. And then the other thing you can do is you can click on one of these and it will open up that particular plugin on the Studio One screen. So there's the Pro EQ that's just come up. And what's happened now is that the Nano has been put into plugin control mode so that we can now control the plugin from here. But I'm going to explain that in a separate section coming up. And now we'll put this plugin scene into focused mode. And we're currently looking at the snare track, and we can see that it has 2 plugins inserted on it, Pro EQ and Room Reverb. And the same applies here. You can rotate to bypass and clicking it will open it up in Studio One. So we're now in the instrument scene, and this will show you if there are any instruments that have been loaded onto the particular MIDI channel. So I've just got one here. It's on track 26 called Hydrone, and we can see that the instrument is Mai Tai. And similarly with the plugins, if we click it, it will open that up in Studio One. And just like the plugins, it's put the Nano into plugin control mode, and we can now control the synthesizer from the control surface. And that's coming up in a future section. There is a focus mode for the instrument track. It's a little redundant because there's only ever going to be one instrument. You can't have more than one instrument loaded, but it's there for completeness. So we're now going to look at the plugin control mode, and this also applies exactly the same to instruments as well. So you can control instruments, but we'll demonstrate it on plugins. So I'm going to go back to the kick drum. So I'm going to open the gate. And so now the Nano is in plugin control mode. And what that means is that it's no longer controlling any of the tracks. It's only now controlling this plugin, this gate plugin. Now the display is going to show you what parameters each control is mapped to. So the first row here shows you what is mapped to the rotation of the rotary encoders. So as you can see here, I've got open threshold here, the attack time and release time, etc. And as you can see, when I rotate them, the new value is being shown. The second row, the first cell tells you what the fader is connected to. So in this case, it's the range. And then the third row is the press of these rotary encoders. Now in the plugin control mode, these press of the rotary encoders can do two different things. Normally they will do the action that is on the fourth row. I'll go through those in a second, but if you want them to do the action on the third row, you have to engage the select mode here. And then you can see as you do that, the bottom row actions disappear. And now the buttons do what it says on the third row, and the value is on the fourth row. So for example, this is the look ahead. And if I click that, I can turn it on, it goes to 1. And if I click it again, it goes off 0, and similarly with the sidechain filter. So without the select mode on, the rotary encoder push buttons are connected to the actions you can see on the bottom strip. So I'll go through the bottom strip now. We've got the name of the track you're working on, first of all. In this case, it's the kick drum. On number 3, it tells you the current plugin you're currently controlling. And you can step through the plugins on this track by using the arrows here, left and right. So I can move to the next plugin, which is a Pro EQ. There we go. There's no mappings on this one. That's why there's not showing anything there. And then I can move back to the previous one, which is the gate. You've then got a number of pages here. There's 8 pages for you to map. Okay, so I just explained how you can map the 8 rotary encoders here, but that was on page 1. If I go to page 2 now, using this arrow here, now it's blanked out because I can now map these to 8 completely different controls, and that's on page 2, and then I can swap back and forth between the pages. And you have a total of 8 pages there. And then lastly, this one, the end button closes the current plugin and returns you back to the plugin scene. And the last thing to say about plugin control mode is these 3 buttons here. So mute will mute the currently selected track, and solo will solo the currently selected track, and the record button here will bypass the current plugin that you're editing at the moment. So that's an overview of how to use the actual plugins. And now I'm going to show you how to map a new plugin. So I've cleared all the mappings from the gate, and then I'm going to do it again to show you how it's done. So the first thing you want to do is go onto the plugin itself and press this little cog button here and make sure it's blue and that this panel here is open. You also want to make sure that this says Nano. It usually will do if you've opened this plugin from the Nano device itself. So this panel here is where we're going to be connecting up the Nano controls to the parameters in the plugin. Now, as I turn these, you can see on the plugin, it's telling you which was the last control that was touched. You can see that this is the VPOT rotation on channel 4. That's this one here. Stroke 1 means page 1. So if I put it onto, say, page 2, and then I do that, you can see it's 4 and 2. So we'll go back to page 1. So to map a control, the first thing you have to do is move the control you want to map. So let's map the first rotary encoder to the threshold. We'll move this, and it comes up here, VPOT 1 of 1. We then move the parameter you want to connect. So move the threshold. It comes up here. And then to connect them, you just press this arrow here. And then on the Nano display, you can see it's come up with open threshold. As we move that, the two things are now connected. So now we'll connect the fader to the reduction range. So we move the fader, we move the reduction range, and we just connect them up like that. And now we're going to do the click of this one, maybe to the look ahead. The first thing we need to do, of course, is put it in select mode, because otherwise the clicks do the bottom line here. We click that, VPOT press 1 of 1, and then we click the look ahead and we connect them up. And there's the look ahead there. And now when we press that, it turns the look ahead on and off. So you only need to do this mapping once for each plugin, and it will remember that across all of your future songs. Now, if you don't want to map them manually, there is an auto mapping. It's not great because it just more or less randomly spills it across. It can be a bit of a confusing layout. It's best for plugins which don't have very many parameters. If it's got a lot of parameters like a channel strip, it's far better to manually map it. But to use the auto mapping, I can just demonstrate on here. You just press this auto map button, and now you can see on the Nano display here that it's automatically mapped a load of these here. So we've got range, attack, release, low frequency cut is here, and it runs across a few pages. So we now have auto here that shows you auto mapping, and we've got 2 pages, and this is page 1. We can switch to page 2, and there's your high frequency there. This isn't a bad auto mapping because it's only got a few controls, but it's often preferable to map it out yourself, so you can do it in a logical way, and you can split it over pages which make sense to you. If you don't want the auto mapping now, you can toggle it off, and it still remembers the manual mapping that you made earlier. So you can just switch between auto and manual whenever you like. It won't ruin your manual mapping.